All right, Sixer Nation, we finally get to hear from Coach Nick Nurse about the Paul George signing and what he can bring to this team. We'll get into that. Also, a breakout game from Sixers first-round pick Jared McCain in Summer League, and a couple other standouts who I think are really rising up the Sixers board. We'll get into that, as well as some final observations. As you can see, I'm back in the studio here. Got back last night. Appreciate everybody who tapped into all the Summer League content, and of course, welcome in to Philly Take with RB. I'm RB. Do me a favor, like the video if you have enjoyed the content, and subscribe and turn on the noties so you don't miss any of the other videos and live shows. I might end up talking at the end of this video, or maybe in a separate live stream or something, about my experience, a few behind the scenes things. I mean, it was an absolutely unreal experience, definitely invaluable for my own career. And I got to meet a lot of people, whether it's players, coaches, execs, reporters, like people that I didn't think I was going to meet. So shout out to NBA Summer League for hooking us up. But we will start off with one piece of news. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Paul George will finally have an introductory press conference this coming Tuesday. It'll be at 1 p.m. So we will be covering that live. We'll get all the answers. I'm sure they have a lot of questions for him, even though it's like almost a month later. Excited to hear what Paul George has to say about the city, about the fans, etc. You've probably already heard a little bit of it on his recent podcast where, by the way, he had Lil Dicky on there, and Daryl Morey actually tweeted about it because there was one viral clip going around where Paul George apparently was kind of persuaded by Lil Dicky, saying that he was going to save a ton of money in Philly, especially on his houses, because I listened to the episode. It was interesting to hear the convo, but yeah, Lil Dicky was, I guess, one part of the reason that he came here, because he told him, yo, you can buy a $2 million house here in Philly. It's going to be like a mansion, and try to do that in LA, and it's not going to even compare one bit. So shout out to Paul George and Lil Dicky for being on the recruit train. But at the end of the day, Paul George is a Sixer, and Nick Nurse is happy about it. So here is what he had to say on how Paul George can fit in with the Sixers. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
Paul George, the biggest signing probably this offseason for any team. What has you most excited about that addition?
Well, I think mostly it's a fit, right? We kind of have Tyrese at the 1 and Joel at the 5, kind of as the bookends of the team. We needed something in the middle as a wing, scoring wing, and he's certainly that. I think he's capable of playing both ends. I think he's capable of being a big shot maker. Late game shot maker, and he's, experienced guy that can put it in the bucket in a lot of levels. He can post you a little bit, he can shoot the three, he can handle and all that kind of stuff. So super excited.
Paul, pretty much a jack of all trades is what Nurse is saying, and the biggest emphasis point there for me is the late game shot making, right? Another guy who can take the rock and take over, go hit you a game winner if needed. Sixers haven't had a lethal wing like that. Yes, last year they had Kelly Oubre, which, obviously was an amazing addition for this team. But Paul George is an actual superstar. You know what I mean? And he's a guy who can come in, like Nurse said, fit right in between Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and just form that huge big three that this team has always needed. So shout out to Nurse, and it seems like he's very excited to play with, to coach Paul George. And it seems like PG is the perfect fit in terms of the options that were available. I think we all feel that way, right? Like, PG is not the perfect player, but he was by far the best option available, and Morey was able to get it done. But I like that he says he's an experienced guy that can put it in the bucket. Shout out to Nick Nurse and Paul George. All right, let's talk about some Summer League stuff. Before we get into that, I want to ask you a question, okay? Who do you think is going to make the Sixers roster from Summer League? If you had to pick a guy or a few players that you think will be on the roster, give me your thoughts down below. Before we get into it all, a word from our sponsor. Shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Southern New Hampshire University. Funny enough, years ago, I enrolled in college trying to figure out how to obtain a degree in sports. But as a first-generation college student, I had little to no experience, really no guidance at all. And an SNHU would have been a perfect opportunity for someone like me, and maybe it can benefit you, as their online sports management program lets you turn a passion for sports into a degree. You'll learn about the business and economics of sports, sports management principles, and how to gather and analyze data. This degree can help you prepare for many careers like an athletic director, sports information director, marketing manager, and other exciting roles in the sports industry. You'll even be able to tap into SNHU's network of grads, help establish those connections with individuals working in sports-related organizations. SNHU has one of the largest accredited nonprofit online degree offerings in the country. They are radically affordable, and their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. So do yourself a favor, go down to the description, click the link, go to snhu.edu/PhillyTake, and request free info about the program. A real person will even schedule to hop on a call with you and discuss how the program can benefit you personally. Once again, check it out, snhu.edu/PhillyTake. All right, man, we have to give some recognition, to be honest, to Jared McCain. He's obviously been struggling to shoot the ball in Summer League. I got to catch up with him, interview him. It was a really good couple of answers that I thought he provided me and Sean Bernard. By the way, shout out to my guy, Sean. We did some great content. We actually had one more video lined up the other night, and we couldn't put it out due to some audio issues. So that was unfortunate, but shout out to him for collabing with me on the content. A lot of great feedback from you guys in the comments. But Jared McCain was great to talk to, and he finally broke out of this little shooting slump he has going on. No, I'm not worried yet about Jared McCain. Does Nurse think he will get some minutes in the rotation? It's hard to know, right? I mean, Nurse doesn't typically tend to go with some of these young guys, and that was one of his issues in Toronto at the end. But maybe he changed, right? Maybe he learned from Toronto, and maybe he is willing to experiment now. It's still a little confusing to me based on the timeline. Like, I watched Dalton Connect the other night as well after the Sixers game, and they were going up against the Celtics. By the way, the Bronny James hype was just absolutely insane. It was wild to hear how that place went when he scored one bucket. But anyway, Dalton Connect looked more NBA ready, but again, we know that boom potential for Jared McCain. And the one thing that I'm looking for is him to continue to develop as a playmaker and facilitator. Last night was his best game by far. I wish I would have been there to see it, but he had 21 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal in 24 minutes. And here's just one example of what I'm talking about. So here was a play last night where he has it at the top, and he's going to break down this defender, little cross, drive, blow by, fouled in one, puts it in with the right. Like, these are the types of things I want to see from Jared McCain. And one thing that Sean and I talked about, which I think needs to be emphasized a little more, is we need the ball in this guy's hands. Like, no offense to Jeff Doughton Jr. Maybe he's a guy that could make the roster, and maybe he will due to last year, right? Being on the team, Nurse loves him. He had him in Toronto. I'm not mad at Jeff Doughton Jr. Like, he looks decent in Summer League so far, but we need to see that growth and development of Jared McCain. Like, this is the guy that we are investing in to hopefully come in and help lead this team to a championship in a couple years. You know what I mean? He's not going to be the focal point, right? He's not Joel. He's not Paul George Maxey. But imagine if the Sixers could finally get some of that return out of a first-round pick in the first year he comes in, and say McCain's coming off the bench, lighting it up. Like, the Sixers could really, really benefit from that right now. Yes, they have made other moves. They have made good additions. They brought in some firepower off the bench. But if McCain is ready to go day one, that'll also help Nurse not have to overplay Kyle Lowry. It'll help alleviate some of that pressure to find that guard help off the bench. And I think plays like this just show McCain is capable, but he needs to have more reps. And I want to see it more in Summer League. So last night was a really great game from Jared McCain, and hopefully he can build on that moving forward. Now, a couple other guys I want to end off talking about that really impressed me just from my own observations while I was there. Kind of hinted at this before. The main guy is Adem Bona, and here was my favorite answer that I heard so far in the media stuff. He says, quote, about the Klingon poster dunk, "That doesn't change anything for me. A shot blocker always gets dunked on because you're going to jump. I'm probably going to get caught a couple more times, and I'm going to keep jumping and try to block every shot." That is the winner mentality right there. It doesn't matter if you get postered. It doesn't matter what happens the previous play. You have to reset your brain and focus one play at a time. This guy was the one who most impressed me on the floor while I was there. Like, it's one thing to watch it on TV, but seeing the way that he moves down the floor, he is busting it every play. And there was even another quote in the media stuff where he pretty much said, "I need to learn to slow down. Like, I'm going 1,000 miles per hour right away." This kid's motor, as they said in the pre-draft process, is unmatched. He is insane. Like, he is willing to make a play every single time. There will not be a play that goes by where he's not involved in some way. Like he's not standing around. He's not ball watching. No, he is involved every time. And he actually came back and had that block on Klingon and went right at him. I love that. I love that from Bona. And based on what I saw, he just shot up the board for me. So hopefully the Sixers feel the same way. And a couple other players that I think should be highlighted. Kiva Luma. He is trying to get that third two-way spot right now. It's David Jones and Justin Edwards. Kiva Luma seems to be in the right place at the right time. He seems to always make the right play. Hit a couple big shots, had a couple nice blocks as well. I'm watching him rotate. He just does all the things the right way. Played overseas for a couple years. He has been grinding, man. And so far, he has very much impressed me and other Sixer fans as well. Don't know how the Sixers feel about him. Doesn't seem like he's first priority, but definitely a guy that I would keep my eyes on if I were the Sixers. And lastly, Justin Edwards. I think Justin Edwards, coming out of high school at one time, if you didn't know this, was actually one of the top recruits in the nation. ESPN had him ranked number 1 at one point. Went to Kentucky. Obviously didn't play up to par, but he's from Philly. And he, probably would have been a lottery pick if he had played a better season at Kentucky. And I just think personally that Justin Edwards is showing potential as a defender. He needs to work on his offensive game. But me and Sean were talking, and kind of the best comp we came up with right now was more of like a Derrick Jones Jr., like just a guy who can defend multiple positions, play out on the wing, knock down, catch and shoot threes, and just impact the game. And he's got a little athleticism to himself as well. Like I said, he was an All-American. He was number 1 in the nation at one point coming out of high school. Probably just needs a little more time to develop. But those are the guys that I'm keeping my eyes on right now. And hopefully at the end of the day, the Sixers can find a couple gems here because they're going to need it in those final couple spots coming off the bench. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Give me your thoughts down below in the comments section. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.